600,000 people go missing in the United States each year. Tens of thousands remain mysteriously missing.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Mysteriously Missing. I'm Justine.
Hello everyone, I'm Karen. Our case today is Veronica, and her middle name, I'm going to say Machen, M-A-C-H-E-N, and last name Casciato. Veronica left her Lincoln Memorial University in Harrogate, Tennessee on Thursday, April 6, 2017 at around noon. She stopped at Lee's Market to get gas and was never seen again.
She was 48 years when she went missing. She was 48 years old. She's currently 50. Her date of birth is June 7th, 1968. She's Caucasian and she's about 5'5", weighing around 115 to 125 pounds. She has brown short hair that has, it's starting to gray, and then her eye color is hazel. She also wears glasses and has a skin condition which is called vitiligo, and it has like a light and dark colored skin on her hands.
Right. And, Veronica is described as a caring and trusting person. She has spent years volunteering for a lot of organizations, and she was studying a social work in Lincoln Memorial University. She was hoping to help even further after finishing her degree, and eventually she wanted to get her master's degree. She's also described as a nature lover. I know her and her husband lived in Cosby, Tennessee, which if you look at a map, it's at the base of the Great Smoky Mountains. And she enjoys long drives down back roads. Her husband is quoted as saying she isn't the type to run off without telling anyone her plans.
Yeah, her family also says that she was an avid user of social media, things like Messenger, FaceTime, Skype, Instagram, Snapchat. She had several email accounts for different purposes and communicated using many different platforms. The car she was driving when she went missing was a white four-door 2010 Toyota Corolla. It had Tennessee state license plate of 1 D as in dog 6-6R8, and it also had a square yellow LMU University sticker on the lower left side of the rear window.
So when Veronica left that day the university to go get gas, she was wearing a brown knit sweater, blue jeans, blue socks, brown Dansko shoes. She had on small silver hoop earrings, her wedding ring, and a necklace with a single brown teardrop-shaped pearl.
It's also reported that she may have had a different type of necklace on that had a small red stone and made of coppery metal. She was also carrying a gray and green backpack with possibly her school books inside and her papers. Also her identification and yarn and other knitting materials.
She has multiple piercings on each ear, and she has a tattoo of a rainbow butterfly winged fairy on her upper right arm. And there is a possible second tattoo reported on her upper back shoulder blade area.
Veronica was married to Steve Casciato. She also had a daughter who still lives in Asheville, and then she has a sister named Maureen Craig. And Veronica also had worked at the library on campus at Lincoln Memorial University, which is a private 4-year co-educational nonprofit liberal arts college located in Harrogate, Tennessee.
Right. So we'll get into the timeline a little bit here. It's not very long. We don't know much, but she did go missing that very day right after her work shift. So she was at her work-study job between 8 and 10 a.m. at the university. Now, she had completed that work-study program at the library and then left the campus. During the week, she lives on campus, and on the weekends, she goes home to her husband in Cosby, Tennessee, about 2 hours away. Now, she left the campus at 12:30, and her husband has said that she would often take long scenic drives, and she loved taking in the Blue Ridge views, the Blue Ridge Mountains. He's also quoted as saying when we were first dating, she was late getting to his house one day, and he called the state troopers because he thought she was in an accident. She had just taken the scenic route, and told me not to worry so much. So I try not to worry so much. And after she left the campus, she stopped at Lee's Market to get gas.
And I just want to throw this in there that at Lee's Market, that was the last verified use of her card. So after that, there was no more transactions of her, on her bank account or of that card.
Right. So this last transaction on her credit card was at that nearby station just south of the Lincoln Memorial University campus. So she wasn't far off campus. Mm-mm. And after that, there were no more transactions nor activity on her cell phone, which is really strange.
Her sister Maureen is quoted as saying, "My sister didn't leave her campus dorm with any bags or her iPad and talked a lot about how excited she was for a field trip last Friday. When family and friends couldn't get a hold of her later that day, it really wasn't that unusual. Veronica had a paper to finish, according to her husband, and then a storm had actually moved into that area later that day. So it was kind of giving him some cell phone issues, trying to get a hold of her. And then not getting a call from her that night didn't really set him into a panic, but probably because of the storm, and he knew there's probably some cell phone issues going on.
And it sounds like when she's writing a paper, she really gets into it and is not going to be available by phone, and we all get that. So Steve, her husband, saying there was a storm. When I checked the Farmer's Almanac for that day, it's actually out of Knoxville, which is kind of equal distance from Harrogate and Cosby. But there was high winds at 35 miles an hour. There was no snow and no rain. But, the winds may have knocked out some lines. They're also living on the border of the Great Smoky Mountains, and so, weather changes really quickly there and can get very harsh. So he said a storm had knocked out his phone service.
Veronica was actually scheduled to go on a field trip, which is the next day, April 7th, to visit a homeless shelter. So she had made plans in the future, and she even had plans to go home to Cosby, Tennessee that Saturday, April 8th.
Yeah, and her family says she has had plans on Sunday to go to Asheville, North Carolina to join her daughter to see their favorite band. And her family said she was planning to go to the Orange Peel on Sunday, April 16th, with her daughter.
Her sister, Maureen, actually is quoted saying, "If there was any way she could have been here in Asheville Sunday, she would have been." So it's not like she didn't have plans with family. I mean, she made all these plans, her daughter, her husband. It's not, right. It's just so unusual.
Very excited about life, too. She had a bright future planned, and all the family was on board. So the fact that she was just last seen at a gas station, and then they found her car.
So now it's the next day, April 7th. She had a scheduled field trip planned to go to the homeless shelter, which she never showed up for. And actually, the instructor had called Steve, her husband, and Steve is quoted as saying, "No, that I didn't know where she was, and that was alarming because she wouldn't have missed that." Which I assume, obviously, if she's talking about it for a couple days, she had planned on going. So it is very alarming.
Yeah, that's very strange that she wouldn't have showed up to something so important to her.
Yeah, and even her husband had said she was never late to things.
Yeah, and Steve, after being super concerned when this happened, he ended up calling the campus police, and they performed a welfare check. And he eventually learned that she wasn't in her room from them. Her belongings, including her clothes and computer, was still there. So Steve got in his car and said, "That's it. I'm driving to the campus to look for her myself." And after notifying other family members, her sister and brother-in-law also joined him there. So 2 weeks later, her car was found, and it was nestled up in the Eagle Gap area.
Right, and it was found on April 18th. However, there is other recordings that it was found on April 19th, so we're not 100% sure. But, 2 weeks later, her car was found, and it's about 150 miles away from campus, which is very odd.
Yeah, way too far away. If you're writing a paper, you get off work at noon, and you've got to get a paper done, and then you have a field trip the next day. So
right.
She had a lot of pressure on her. There was no way she was going to take a drive. And this, if you look on the map, Eagle Gap is south of her home in Cosby along the National Forest or the Great Smoky Mountains. So it's in another national forest, But there's no way she'd even head that way.
Exactly. Even if she was headed home,
Right.
she's totally going a different way.
She's going too far south.
Right.
So it's just 3 hours versus an hour and a half to her home. So it's very strange where her car was found. So here's the really sad part. Her car was seen by 2 different people on the day she went missing, and neither one of them reported it till 2 weeks later.
According to a Monroe County Sheriff Officer Tommy Jones, the hunter was going to his favorite spot when he first saw the car. When he saw the car, he thought somebody had found his favorite spot and was hunting, but he said he saw 2 people, a man and a woman, inside the car and decided to turn around and leave. So very weird that there was 2 people in the car.
Can you imagine if he had gone up there at that point? It sounds like there was a man in the car with her, and she is known to be very trusting.
Right.
And if he had intercepted at that point, we might be not even telling this story today.
Yeah.
And then the hunter returned a couple weeks later, and he saw the car was still there. But this time there was nobody in it. So he took down the license plate number, and before he could call law enforcement, he saw a story about her missing on the news and realized it was her car. So Sheriff Jones is quoted as saying, "We've been searching ever since. We asked the hunter if the woman he saw in the car appeared to be in distress or was being held against her will, but he said he saw nothing that indicated any of that."
So you kind of think maybe she was kidnapped, but then if she was so nice and kind that maybe she had picked up a hitchhiker?
And somebody talked her into going to the forest, to the national forest for the day or for a drive, which she loved to do.
Yep.
And she thought, well, I'm almost done with the paper. I'll get it done tonight or I'll finish it over the weekend. Although she had a busy Friday, the field trip. And maybe she was going to finish it after that because it sounded like she was going home on Saturday to her husband.
Right.
And then on to Asheville, North Carolina on Sunday. So maybe she talked herself into going for a long drive. But obviously it didn't turn out well.
Right. And the other weird thing, a forest ranger had noticed the car before when he was passing through that area, but he didn't become alarmed until returning to that area later that day.
Right. So after that, after 2 weeks went by and we have 2 people that had spotted her that day she went missing, and now we've got 2 weeks that we've lost that time. And that is such an important time right after somebody goes missing, we're finding out.
Multiple agencies had responded. They even brought out canine search teams and a helicopter, but the search was eventually called off with no solid leads as to where Veronica was. So
it sounds like there was no evidence in the forest.
Exactly.
It's like car, guy
and
seen,
disappeared.
And then nothing.
Right.
And it was also reported that there was no evidence that anyone else drove her car. Her cell phone records took a long time to get and did not provide any new information, so nothing strange going on there. They also searched around the university and places that she loved to visit and drove near the campus, but to no avail. And back to the forest, it's quoted as saying her husband said it would be a bit out of character for Veronica to go on a hike unannounced that far away from campus or during that time period when she's working on a school paper and such, and scheduled to go on a field trip. And she ended up 2.5 hours southwest of her home in Cosby in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And Cosby also is on the edge of the Cherokee National Forest, which is near the border of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. So very odd that she would go that far away. And, you know, when I think about what could have possibly happened to her that day, a lot of things are pointing to the fact that she was a trusting person, and she was seen with another man in her car.
And I kind of, when reading through this whole case, it kind of one thought came to my mind, like, was she having an affair with somebody? Because she was spotted with another man in the woods. It's kind of an odd place to go. But the phone records didn't indicate that she had been in contact with anybody else.
Right. So that doesn't sound like it was lending to that. But her husband, Steve, who's very involved in this case and sounds like he loves and supports his wife, said she was a very trusting person and would help people. She'd even pick up hitchhikers or
and
strangers.
Last seen at a gas station, there could have been someone waiting there that needed a ride.
Great place to find a hitch a ride at a gas station. People are, which way are you going? And she might have felt sorry for somebody. Did he then at that time take over and force her to go into the national forest?
That was a thought. However, according to the TBI, there was no fingerprints on the vehicle. So I don't think he had forced her to drive somewhere, or I don't even think he was driving the car.
So that's Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, right?
Right. Yeah. So they searched for fingerprints. Nothing was found. And
did he cover up though? Did he have on gloves? I mean, the weather it was 70 degrees at a high and only 46 as a low. So, but some people wear gloves if they, and the winds were high. So,
and Steve, her husband, was quoted as saying, "It just baffles me that someone can just disappear like this. They're just gone and nobody knows what to do."
Yeah, very strange. He also said, "I wish it were me and not her. I'd do anything to bring her home, anything." And he seems like he truly cares for her. So
yeah, that's very sad.
Mm-hmm.
There is a Facebook page that her friends had made. It's Friends of Veronica Casciato. So you can always check that out on Facebook.
Yeah, I think it's monitored by your friends and family. Mm-hmm. Also, if you have any information about this missing woman, 50 years old today, please contact the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. And their phone number is 615-744-4000. And they're also working jointly on this investigation with the Claiborne County Sheriff's Office at 423-626-3385. You can also visit the sheriff's Facebook page.
Yeah, and there's another quote I just wanted to add in from her sister. "There may be a lot of sightings that aren't her, but there may be one that is. And that's what we're holding on to, that one tip, that one clue that can help us." So they're really reaching out for anything.
Right, and I'm sure they would take that information to the sheriff's office. Mm-hmm. And also, it was reported that she did have several email accounts, and maybe the office does not have all those email accounts because some people create a lot of those, and there may be some information there as well. So any little bit of information always helps these missing people. So if you have any cases that you have information on, you can also email us at mysteriously-missing411@gmail.com.
We also have pictures on our Instagram, which is Mysteriously Missing. You can look at maps and photographs. We'll have pictures of Veronica up there in our other cases. We also have a Facebook page that we're working on, so you can check that out as well.
Yeah, let's find this woman and bring her home to her family.
Right, yeah. If you can share, we'll have a video on YouTube, Mysteriously Missing. Share this with your friends and family. Get the word out there. We also have our podcast on iTunes, and we release new cases every Sunday, so just anything that'll help. Sharing it with friends, posting pictures, getting the word out there. It really helps this family. So thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Please like, share, subscribe to this podcast so that others can bring more awareness to this case and help family and friends bring their loved ones home.